Hey, it's Dr. Kid again. And it's Monday, 6 p.m. straight up. And you know what time that is? It is time for us to have our weekly shake up. I can't tell you how important it is to shake things up because if you don't, life becomes sedentary, it becomes still, and you never get to some of the important things that are hidden in your life or in your experiences. So we're here to shake things up right away. We're just going to keep on doing that, okay? So thank you for kind of hanging in there with me week after week and for just making sure that you you like it, you share it, follow, share, and subscribe. Just make sure you do that. Just that simple little thing. Just share it with somebody. Like it, share it, follow, share, and subscribe. When you do that, what you're doing is that you're refueling this program. You can't drive your car every week for a long period of time without running. You got to watch that meter when it's going down. So I'd like for you to refuel by follow, share, and subscribe so that many more people can benefit from this program and the information that we put out there from week to week. All right. And you know what else you got to do? If you would like to be on the show with me, just email my team at drkidspeaks.com. No, excuse me, drkidspeaks@gmail.com. drkidspeaks@gmail.com. And we'll get with you and we'll have a talk and we'll get you all situated. And, if you would like to be off camera, that's fine too. But we'd rather have you on camera so we can put a face to the voice and the info that you are passing out to other people. So, like I said, from week to week, if you don't say it, it won't be said. Don't tell me that somebody else said this. Now, they said it, but they can't say it with the emotions and thoughts and feelings like you can. So you need to get up on yourself, up on the show here and be a part of it so that we can hear from you. The most important person in your life is you. You put the mask over your face first. That's what they tell you on the airline. Put it right here before you go around helping people, because if you don't, you may not be around to help people. Okay, enough said. Listen, tonight I'm going to be running solo because I want to try to finish out. Or being close to it, the whole idea of grieving. I've been doing this series on grieving, and it's a very painful subject matter. Okay, this whole grieving, and so tonight we'll be looking at accepting, the acceptance of grief. And so we're going to look at our first slide right now. Okay, accepting the reality of the loss. And let me just say this here real quick to that this is a very crucial time these next few months in the lives of millions of people across this nation. Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving will be different this year than it was last year for just millions of people for the obvious reasons. There have been losses, and every loss is meaningful at some level. And so I just want to say this right here. I know it's coming up, it's a month away, but I want to say this right here. My thoughts and my prayers are with you, through your losses and the disruptions in your life. And I'm hoping that something that is said tonight by me and some question that you will ask tonight will be answered in a way that will give you a sense of your reality. And Melody said, can you put that back? Let me just say, it's especially difficult around the holidays. Absolutely, Melody, absolutely, because holidays, they have their way of triggering. One of the things that it does is why it's so difficult is that around holidays, you have certain people in your family construct or in your cluster, your friendship cluster, that everybody's in there. They've got a specific role that they play. And it's like a jigsaw puzzle. Each piece has its own shape and its own contour, and it doesn't fit anywhere else on the on the board. It doesn't fit anywhere else in the puzzle. It might look alike, they may close, but you try getting it in there, you may get it if you try to squeeze it and hammer it in there, but it does not belong in that place in that cell. Okay, so everybody's got that specific place that they fit into your life, and the absence of that person will mean the absence of the part of you that is attached to the person who is no longer available to you. Okay, so I understand it, and I really want to thank you for that, to say it's different. It's very tough this time of the year. And I just wanted to start out by acknowledging that. I don't want to just jump into this like all I'm interested in is just talking to people. Okay, so the first task of grieving is to develop a full acceptance of the reality of the loss and the unavailability of the object. Now, object here is not like, I'm not denigrating people. There is a thing that a theory that we call object relations theory. And the author who developed this, they talk about objects, meaning people, places, and things. It doesn't belittle people at all. So you develop the full acceptance of the reality of the law, and as we go down through, we'll take a look at ways that some people may have difficulty just accepting that loss. And because I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again, that the loss that the quality of the attachment, remember we did attachment, the quality of the attachment is directly related to the quality of the pain that you feel when that person is no longer available to you, because the quality of the attachment you had with this person, it meant that you attach yourself to this person who is no longer available. And because that person is no longer available, the part of yourself that you attach to this person is no longer available to you. So you're not available to you, and the person is not available to you. And this is a double whammy. I'm trying to tell you something here about this thing we call grief. It's not just something you just read about. It's an experience that only you can have, and you can only have an experience that's one time. Okay, so develop a full acceptance. Listen, this word acceptance is kind of crazy, because if something comes into your consciousness, if it's in your consciousness, you have already accepted the fact that it's in your consciousness and it's real. Here it is, though, that we don't have to like what we accept. We don't have to like what is real. There are a lot of things that is real because we know it. We have evidence. And there are a lot of things that we have information on that we know is evidence, but we don't have to like it. Accepting something and liking something is two different things. So Warden, he said, develop a full acceptance of the reality of the loss and the unavailability of the object. That's from William Warden, a great a man who has done a lot of work, written some great books on grief work, grief therapy. Okay, let's take a look at the next slide here. And how do we do this? How do we go into accepting? First of all, you must make the subconscious conscious. You must make the subconscious conscious. And I know as I'm saying this, I have these slides, but I'm going to be talking. So as I'm framing it, I may be talking about some things now that will come up a little bit later, but I just reference these things because I'm not doing a presentation. What I'm doing, I'm talking to some people who are going through some stuff. Even as early as today, I got a message to somebody saying, listen, one of our pastors just lost a cousin. We're talking about a cousin that he's been hanging with for so long. And that gaping hole Here, it's, you know, you can't fill it with anything else or with anyone else. So you make the conscious. So he has to accept the reality, making the subconscious conscious. Now, what is the subconscious? Remember, the subconscious is the part of the brain that is in the state, is not in the state of awareness. Okay, it's part of the mind that is not in the state of awareness. It's that place. We talked about it, remember, and we talked about it. So I'm going to say it again, that it is like that emotional iCloud where, you know, like this, when my phone gets full, you know, there are things that Mr. Google will say, listen, we have some iCloud space and you can put whatever you want in the iCloud and it does not have to be in your consciousness. We have this thing I call the emotional iCloud, and we make really good use of it because we put so much in our emotional iCloud. If you don't believe what I'm saying, your emotional iCloud will become accessed, triggered by the fact that Thanksgiving is coming up and everything that you did last year or in the past that brought you pleasure, whoever is absent, whatever is different, and that you stored away in your emotional iCloud, your emotional iCloud will be jacked. This thing, and those things that you have not been dealing with all year long will come forth. It will. So you make conscious and subconscious. If you're going to, in other words, your awareness of something and the consciousness, it is very important. You cannot deal with something that you have not accepted in its reality. It requires you to say, listen, this thing is really what it is. No matter the pain and the discomfort and all of this, you got to deal with this thing here. And I'm not saying it's like, well, you got to go out and go to the store and buy you something. I understand that. It's a matter of, at the time when you want to deal with it, or you know, you may not have the emotional fortitude, the strength to deal with it. At the time when other people want you to deal with it, they're telling you to deal with something that they don't have an emotional a experiential connection to. You're the only one that has the experiential connection. And if they're in a part of a cohort family that has lost somebody, everybody in the family is having a different experience. So some people get over it earlier because of their constitution, because of the quality of the attachment, and others will just have to soak in that thing for a long time. Please don't let people tell you when to stop crying. In other words, don't let people tell you when to stop the expression of your grief and your mourning. It is you, because aborted grief is only prolonged grief. Let me say it again. Aborted grief to please somebody else only prolong your grief. When they ain't grieving no more and you're still grieving, they don't want to come around you because your ongoing grief, which was aborted because they wanted you to stop, your ongoing grief is only going to remind them of what they're trying to escape from. You see, so go through your stuff. So make it conscious, take it out of your emotional iCloud and bring it into your consciousness. That is the only way that you can deal with it. Yes, Desiree, I hear you. I hear you. Yes, absolutely. Amen to that. You know, because let me just go on. Some people just, and I don't know if they don't know what they're doing, or maybe they do. You know, they want you to hurry up and get through this thing. And it's only because they are hurrying up to get through it because they don't want to deal with the pain. And because you're saying, listen, I want to be with myself, you know, and my memory of what was but is no longer. Yeah. And you need to cherish that memory. Really cherish the memory. Now, I'm not saying you stay there for years and years and years. No, that's what I'm saying. But you need to cherish that memory and work it through. When you work it through, I was looking to see if I had my wife's mirror here, but I don't. You have that mirror talk. You know, you look in the mirror and spend some time talking with you. And, you know, when you do that and you bring it out, you bring it into your awareness, you can do it. It contains it is your memory bank. That's what that is. Your subconscious is your memory bank. You know how it is. You got all these millions of dollars. See, I'm talking about you, not me. Yeah, y'all got all these millions of dollars and you don't have it in your mattress or under the mattress. I know that. You got it in a bank and you know it's in the bank. but you're not thinking about it all the time. I think about mine because I ain't got that much. You're not thinking about it all the time, but it's in there and it's accessible to you when you want it. And so that's what this emotional iCloud is like. It's in there. It's in your memory bank. It's yours, and it becomes accessible to you when you need it. And that's what I'm talking about. It contains your memory bank, a dedicated storage unit for thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and habits. I know some people. I was helping somebody the other day. They were moving, and they wanted to so they needed to put some stuff in storage. They rented some storage space. They got the number of the storage space. They got the key to the storage space, but they are not thinking every day about what's in the storage space unless it's something that they really said, man, I wish I had. Then they know where to go. Then they know exactly how to access that. All of us know how to access our memory bank, but sometimes we don't like what's in the memory bank, okay? So it's a dedicated storage space for your feelings, thoughts, and your behavior. But know this for sure. Your feelings, thoughts, and behavior and habits will not stay in your memory bank forever. Something will trigger that. All right, let me take a look. And listen, I don't want to be here just talking by myself. Please, I know that this is not one of our favorite subjects. Talk about grief. Grief is what we go through. Mourning is how we act out our grief that we're feeling. I know that mourning would be like the activity, like the funeral and so on and so forth, the burial. Community mourns, but people who are really close, wow, they're the one that grieves. So there's a qualitative difference. Okay, stuck in the grieving process. Okay, Martha Gray may not like it. However, it's a must to accept it in order to start the healing process. Yes, 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 yes. Marita, you're absolutely right. If you did, listen, you can't work on something that you are not aware of. If it does not exist, you can't work on it. You can't work on, on a mirage. It just doesn't exist. So yes, but you know what happens though? You must, however, do this. You may not like it. And the reason we may not like it, because there's this pain that's associated with it. And sometimes we think we have gotten over it or gotten past it, or we have shifted along the continuum a little bit. And then all of a sudden, something out of nowhere slaps you in the face and you start worrying, you start crying, you start doing all of these things because, listen, triggers don't have to come from outside of yourself, like physical trigger. It can be an emotional experience that you're going through, and it just triggers something inside. All of a sudden, one day, you just say, out of nowhere comes a memory of a person, and you don't know where it's coming from. And it's hard for you to not deal with it. You got to deal with it, because if you don't, it will be with you all, for a long time, and then you stay stuck in the grieving process. We avoid the pain of the loss through the process of reframing. When we reframe the situation by creating positive stories, okay, dismissing the losses. Sometimes, and when you go to funerals, sometimes funerals can be some of the biggest comedy hour you would ever find. When these people are talking all of these great things and funny things that happened, that happened to them, yeah. And then you go to the gravesite and they're crying. They're laughing in church. And what it does, it puts a kind of little pause in between where we are. I need to, and sometimes it's a very conscious thing, I need to hold it together here for me or for somebody else. And or the person who is making all these jokes, they're like paid mourners. They don't want you to mourn, so they mourn for you, or they make these jokes to abort your process of mourning. And then listen. When you abort or delay the grief work. It only prolongs it. Delayed grieving is prolonged grieving, and it just keeps there. And you kind of get the idea. I can put it in this bank, this iCloud up here, but it will come back at you. We avoid pain of the loss through the process, reframing and say, listen, by telling positive stories. Okay, by telling positive stories about the person. And those are not bad things. But then there is this reality piece. It's good to talk about the good things about these people, but then you got to get in touch with yourself when you're doing that, because you are a part of that person's good thing. And or when somebody else is saying all these great and wonderful and marvelous things about somebody else, we get somebody who's saying, they ain't the person that I know. So now we have a conflict. We have this conflict. We have same person, same situation, different people, different outcomes, different experiences. And so we get into well, it wasn't that bad. Oh man, I don't know. It was the greatest place we've ever been. And this person may not be saying, well, there's something in and of the place. There's something about me that when I was here and I saw somebody over there that triggered something in me about what was out there. It does something for me. Or okay. All right. So can denial of working through the grief process cause memory blockage? Tracy, I'm gonna run down to denial, and we. But you're absolutely right. But I want to kind of go through that in just hang in there with me, Tracy. Okay, let me go back to the slide I was looking at and just maybe. Yeah. Okay. So it is here. Denial. Yes. When you deny the reality, discarding the reality, creating a sense of it didn't happen. When you deny something, here's what's happening. Once it hits your awareness, you're not denying that it happened. What you're denying is, if I focus on the reality of this, then I have to go through the pain that I'm feeling. Therefore, if I deny that it happened, okay, I'm really doing it to save me from my own pain. And yes, it will warp the reality of that. And it will, it can, and it will slow down the process of grieving and coming to a finality. Now, coming to a finality in grieving, I'm using that word very carefully, the finality, because I don't know what the finality means. I'm just saying there is this word that in literature, they talk about the finality of grieving. And I think what they really mean is that when you come to a place where you can manage yourself without breaking down. So yes, absolutely, discarding the reality is, here it is to discard a part of yourself that is attached to the reality. You're denying yourself that is attached to reality. And once you deny it, you cannot deal with it. And you put it in your iCloud and it's there until. So you're stuck in the grieving process. We avoid the pain. I hope that kind of answered your question. Okay. We avoid the pain of the loss through the process of reframing, denial, and so forth. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, here is the way that we stuck in the grieving process. Okay, hoarding artifacts of the deceased person. So now, what we're doing is we're creating a human being in memory out of things. Hoarding artifacts. Now, there are people say, well, so such and such is a hoarder. Well, I will say this, that I'm not saying that they're not hoarding. But I think before we come down on them in a negative way, we need to understand what is the function and the meaning of the thing that they're hoarding, and just the behavior of hoarding. That's a whole subject matter in and of itself, why people hoard things. So hoarding artifacts of the deceased. And many of us hoard artifacts of the deceased. Anyways, you know all those pictures we have at the house? You know all those pictures? Artifacts. And we don't want to listen. We don't want nobody to mess with it. I put it right at that place, and every day I come home, I want to see it at that place. You are hoarding, or not, or keeping. Hoarding is when you amass a whole lot of stuff, and sometimes it looks like it's all in disarray. But sometimes we're keeping artifacts like pictures or clothing or whatever it is. It might be gifts that were given to you, not notifying people of the death for several days. Some people may not be able to notify people outside of themselves about the death for several days. Why? Here's a good reason why. The death in itself is traumatizing. And in order for me to tell you, I have to get past the trauma that I'm going through because of the death in order to settle myself so that I can now relive the trauma by telling you about what happened. So yes, some people may not tell somebody, may not get it out. They may not put it on Facebook or however they tell people for several days because they are not denying, but they are taking care of themselves by saying, I'm just not at a place at this point when I can do this. I need to do some self-care. You know how it is, self-care. You're flying in the aircraft. They said, listen, in the event that we have a problem in the cabin and we lose oxygen, a mask will drop down from over here, put it over your face. That is self-care. So when somebody is saying, listen, it's going to take me a while. It is taking me a while to do, to even just think about it, much less talk about it, it's hard for some people to do that. So they're doing that in order to protect themselves, not to protect, they're not trying to keep information from you. Let's go back to what's wrong with keeping things around that reminds us of loved ones. Or are you saying that there is a difference between hoarding and keeping oh, absolutely. There's a difference. Like, I guess I should not have used hoarding, but some people, they do keep everything that there is about this person. And you're right, there is absolutely nothing. As a matter of fact, I think we should keep things around the home that reminds us of people. Why? Because the person may not be here in physical form, but one of the most important things about the creation and the maintenance of an interpersonal relationship is your ability to stay in touch with the memory of the person by keeping things around the home. And these great memories that you had, the things around the home remind you of those times that those memories were enacted and etched into the memory of your mind. Absolutely, there is a difference. So the hoarding is when you just pile a whole bunch of stuff in there and there is no rhyme or reason. Now, even that, though, in and of itself, as I'm thinking it through, okay, may have some good reason, because that's the way the person is wrapped and takes care of being attached to this person. So we really should not berate people who keep a lot of things in their homes, because we don't know what those things really mean in terms of their emotional stability. And when we tell them not to do that, we might be attacking their emotional instability. Distortion, seeing the deceased person embodied in a child, and there is a reality to this. I was talking with somebody one time, a long time ago, and they said, when I look at my granddaughter, she is the exact embodiment of my mama. I mean, she looks like my mama, she walks like my mama, she talks like my mama, everything's about, and that was a granddaughter. Skip a generation, and they're saying it's almost like mama came back alive. Okay, and sometimes seeing the deceased person embodied in a child, now that may have some problems. What kind of problems that might have? Your relationship to the deceased person, mother or grandmother, depending where you are in that. Okay. The things you did not get to act out against that grandmother or mother, okay, you can transfer that onto the child. And the child is wondering, growing up, wondering, how come nobody really liked me? How come they like such and such more than they like me? And so we got to be very careful when we embody somebody else, a deceased person in a person, unknowingly, unwittingly, we might be treating that person either in a good way or a negative way because of a relationship with the person that is not available. So we got to be very, very careful. It's good that they can look like somebody, but we got to be able to make that very sharp contrast, that difference of, yes, but how are you going to treat that person? Make sure you don't transfer it over onto this other people, okay? Is that counter transferred? Taylor, here's a clinical term. Absolutely counter transferring. My transference was coming out, and then mine is to do this. Absolutely counter transferred. Yes, thank you. You're absolutely right. And listen, since you talk about counter transfer, so we have transfers onto men and counter transfers our counter back. That's just kind of a rough way of looking at this. Okay, and see, sometimes we got to be very careful. You're right. Of our own counter transference, because we don't know that, and we don't know what to call it until somebody identified it, just like you did, to say that in essence is absolute counter transference. Absolutely. Okay. Referring to the person in the present tense. You know, they don't say, well, oh, so and so was, or we had, or we, or that person is. That person is in the present tense. And so again, it's just one of those ways of a person trying to stay in touch with, or trying to manage their own emotions, that they say, that they use that kind of a language. And when they do, again, please, because that's their mechanism for emotional stability. Don't say, well, you're talking about him like, or her, you're doing that like they're still here, the person's dead. No. If what they're saying is not bothering you, and you shouldn't let it bother you, because they are grieving in their own way. They really are. Okay. Grief cannot be scattered across the board. There is no book that says do this. I'm going to give you 12 ways to grieve exactly. That book does not. If that book is out there, don't read it. Read it and throw it away, because it is so private. It is so individual. And because it's individuated, you may not grieve the same way at the point of the passing of the person, as you do at the funeral, as you do a week later. It's not the same. Okay. So referring to the person in the present tense is an attempt to keep attached to this person, stuck in the grieving process. Okay, face the reality of the loss, and in the case of death, that there is no return. And that is where a lot of people get stuck. And because they have faced the reality of no return or no reunion, they have now created a situation where they have personalized or used the person in artifacts to memorialize and to be and to have life in and of itself by doing that, by creating this. And so they are basically aborting the reality of the death when they do that. You might be doing that for a number of reasons. And I'm not going to say people is right or wrong, because I don't know how people grieve. Okay. That there is no return. And we need to be able to get to the fact of no return. And if you're having a hard time with that, ask somebody who was married for 40, 50 years, or who was very dependent on that person and loved that person, and that person is no longer here, and the bed, that side of the bed is empty, this side of the table is empty. Well, I'm just watching TV by myself. No one's coming through the door. All of these things, okay? So it's hard that there is no reunion, because reunion here is not something that's physical. We're talking about emotional, experiential reunion. It's here, inside of here. The person ain't going crazy. The person is saying, this person is embodied here, and the embodiment of a person here will determine the acting out of the embodiment here among other people. So you understand what I'm saying here. And so there will be no reunion. Now, those of us that are Christians, or we believe in the Bible that there will be, Christ will come, there'll be a resurrection, and there will be a reunion. But they want it, and they want it now. You know that you know that the thing on TV, it's my money, and I want it now. We all want it now. Nobody is in a hurry to separate themselves from people, places, or things that brings pleasure. Ain't nobody out there that's going to do that. We're not chasing that stuff down. We want to hang on to that thing as long, or that person as long as possible. Some people will cremate their loved ones, okay? And they keep the ashes in a very sacred place for them in the home. And please do not touch it. One woman said, when the cleaners come to clean my home, they don't put their hands on it. They have to, they gotta go around it with their little, you know, feather stuff and stuff like that. And but don't touch it. He was mine. I don't want anybody to touch him. I didn't want anybody to touch him when he was alive. I don't want nobody touching him. He's mine. I talk to him every day. So we understand. We understand, okay. So because she knows there is no chance of a physical reunion, she keeps the reunion in her head, denying the meaning and significance of the loss. Oh, it goes like that. Well, you know, he was a good guy. You know, we had our ups and downs. You know, it was all right. You know, but you know, man, you know, but it was okay. It was okay. It was okay. And so when we do that, we are denying the meaning of the loss, because the greater the import we put on the meaning of the loss, the greater the pain when we have to go through this loss. So we try to minimize that. And when we are successful, when we can successfully minimize that, okay, we are really saving ourselves. But then when reality catches up to us, then we got to understand that you know, we can't do it. And then the last thing on this is we berate the person. We tell it, you know, we call them all kinds of negative stuff and names about this person. Should have been gone a long time ago and all this kind of. When we say those things, we're trying to rescue ourselves, because we really don't mean it. Because if I got to continue saying all these great things, then I'm going to have to deal with all my pain. But if I can shift it over and say, no, it was not, the person was not that great, say all kind of bad things, then it's easier for me to separate myself from this kind of attachment. This kind of attachment is really when this is not available to you, and you find, and this person is over here, and you're here wishing and hoping that this person will be here to do this, but the person is not. You know, so now you got to deal with this thing by yourself. That's what emptiness. We're talking about emptiness syndrome, talk about empty bed syndrome, the empty car syndrome, the empty pew at church syndrome, empty restaurant syndrome. I don't even go back to that restaurant. It was my favorite restaurant, but I don't go back to that restaurant anymore. Why? Because mercy, yes. April, thank you. Trying to rescue ourselves. Yes. Trying to rescue ourselves. You know what, April, thank you for that. And the thing about it is this, you know, I didn't go very far in this, but I, you know, way back when I was a pretty good swimmer, you know, I took some lessons on, you know, rescuing people on the beach, you know, people in the swimming pool and so on and so forth, you know. And we realized, you know, in order for me to rescue them, okay, don't rescue them when they still got a whole lot of energy to put into it, because they take you down. So we're trying to rescue ourselves, but not from somebody else. We're trying to rescue ourselves from ourselves. And then when we do that and we don't get it right, then we get upset. And that's when this will come up in just a moment. That's when we shift into things like what we call, you know, like emotional anesthesia and stuff like that. Let's take a look at the next. Thank you for that, April. Really good. John Ruff. Hey, what's up, John? Got to see you, man. Can you revisit parts of grief, you overcome. John, man, you know this as well as I do, John. Why you messing with me, Big John? And John, it's not like you're trying to revisit these things. It's one of those things that when the subconscious, when it's there, because remember now, John, this thing is up in your emotional iCloud. Okay, it's up there. It's like your child having a backpack. You put all the things in your backpack. I used to call it the emotional backpack. And you know, your emotional backpack is expandable. You have it from the day you were born, and it's just expanding to the day you die. So I went technology, and I said, you have this emotional iCloud. And yes, John, parts of the grief you thought you overcame. The point here is this: you thought you overcame that thing, John. But what help did you use to go through it? Did you use some kind of some crutches to go through this then? And then because the crutches helped you to separate yourself from the feelings that you were going through, that you are required to go through in order to come to a consensus about what's going on as a person. Because you use other things, it can come back to you, John, in a number of ways at times when you don't want to. And sometimes you just see people just sitting around, just crying. John, you just hit it. You just hit a home run. Revisit. And you don't have to revisit it. It revisits you. It will revisit you, John. And then, at a time when you weren't even thinking about it, and then boom, a piece of music, a car, somebody that looks like somebody, whatever it is, and it takes you back. It revisits you. And so the idea here is to work on the self, so that the self can be in control of everything about you, and you admit to and work through the pain that is necessary and is always going to be there until you take full control of not the pain, when you take full control of yourself. That's it. Don't try to control pain. Don't try to control none of that kind of stuff, because you can't touch pain. It doesn't have a structure. It doesn't have a place. It doesn't live somewhere. It's just impacting you somewhere because your pain is here. So try not to control your pain. It's how do you do this? So you get in touch with yourself and the things that cause you pain. Okay. Avoid contact with any stimulus that might trigger your state of consciousness. Okay, whatever it is, so I'm going to go down through this one. Avoid going to places where the deceased frequented, hoping to find them there. You might think people don't do that. People will do that. So people have told me. I've been doing this thing long enough. So, and we're talking about avoidance now. Avoid that. Now I'm going to go back to the stimulus in a minute. Avoid going to places where the deceased frequented, hoping to find them there, And one person said, I went back to this place where we always sat in the same place, and I became very upset, and I had to get out of that place when I saw somebody else sitting in the seat where he used to sit. Finding a place. So we just don't know, so we transfer, and then our counter transference comes up. You're right, comes back up, So we should, avoid going to those places until we have settled it in our mind that those imagery or the mirage that we're dealing with is, we have dealt with it. They are no longer ruling us. They're no longer controlling us. We're controlling them. Listen, avoid contact with stimulus that might trigger your state of consciousness. Okay, so one of the things that you don't want to do, and these stimulus, it can be anything, it could be anything, and these are some of the things this will stop the grieving process. Some of the things I'm about to say right now, things that we call, like, and we probably get to it, like any type of stimulant. Drugs. Oh, by the way, alcohol is a drug. It is a minor mood altering substance, which is a drug. It's no different altering your mind. It may not be as powerful as some of the other stuff. okay, may not be as powerful. Okay, but you know, like when you go to the doctor, you know, to the hospital, to the OR, and they're gonna, you know, do something to you. They're gonna go beneath the skin, cut you, that kind of stuff. You know that. And this is me. So I'm laying down on a gurney, and the doc says, "Okay, Mr. Francis, you know, we're gonna get started here in a minute. You know, my team is here." Says, "Hey, fine, you know." And then he start calling for stuff. I said, "Whoa, hold up, doc, hold up, doc. You're not gonna give me no anesthesia?" He said, "Why?" I said, "Well, you're not gonna cut me because I don't want to feel the pain." See, emotional anesthesia. Emotional anesthesia, people, places, things that will stop you from feeling the depth of your pain. It is called, in my language, emotional anesthesia. Anesthesia does not take the pain away. It only stops you from feeling the pain that is present because it has changed your system to the point where you are no longer feeling it, but it's there. How do I know? When it wears off. When it wears off, the pain is going to say, "Hey, Kitson Francis, hey, I'm back." I go, "Man, I thought you were dead and gone." But no, man, don't try to get rid of me so quick. You know, it's still here. You know, I'm still here. So don't, and let me say this, people, and I'm not advocating for drugs. What I'm advocating is for an understanding for people who use different kind of drugs, which is emotional anesthesia. You know, we should not be in a hurry to call the person who drinks a six-pack every day and may fall out sometime. We should not be in a hurry to call them a drunk. And the person who smoked crack every day, call them a crackhead, because we don't know what that is doing for them to stop them from feeling the pain, because you're not available to help them through their pain. So they drink. And sometimes they are lone drinkers, they're lone smokers, but I'm not advocating that they do that. I'm just giving a reason, a plausible reason for why some people do all these things. It is to try to do what? Avoid the pain that they're going through, but all anesthesia has a time limitation and will wear off. And so when it wears off, they take another hit or take another bottle. So it wears off. And so that's why they keep on doing it. Why? Because it stops them from feeling the pain of the separation and the anger and the displacement and the abandonment that they're feeling because this person is not available. All right. So, okay. Melody. This is good, Dr. Kate. Okay, thank you. I tried and still am trying to be so strong for my grandchildren and sons because I'm a strong Christian minister. Thank you. I feel that some just don't understand my pain. Absolutely. Thank you for that, Melody. And some people will not understand your pain. One of the reasons they won't understand your pain because you are a minister. They're thinking you're so close to God that you don't have pain. You're just supposed to pray it away, spiritualize it away. Hey, well, I tell you what. So Mary says, Martha, go tell Jesus, the friend that you love so much is sick. Jesus stays out in Galilee or whatever for 2 whole days, didn't show up. He gets chided when he shows up by these 2 sisters. If you had been here, our brother would not have died. After they have a little back and forth, Jesus wept. He wept. So you don't need to, people need to understand that you might be a Christian and a minister, but you are still human. You were not born a Christian, a minister, excuse me. You had to accept, even if you were born in a Christian home, you had to accept Christianity. It's not a shroud they put over you and say, okay, you're going to be this all the time. No, you have to accept that. And so some people need to understand that beneath all of this, there is this fragile human being who has taken a path in life to be a minister of the gospel, to save people at a spiritual level, but also biopsychosocial, spiritual and financially, and all the other ways that you can help people. So yeah, because I'm strong, I feel that some just don't understand your pain, and some don't think that you should have any pain because you are a minister. And they need to know you cannot pray it away. Okay, 6'5". Nobody can understand your pain. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Two people can experience a death of the same loved one and not understand how each other are feeling because the attachment is different. You need to come on this show. Come on, 6'5". You need to come on this show. Oh, I mean, I could not have said it any better than that. You are so absolutely, irrefutably wrong, right. I mean, you are just so absolutely right. Even a wife and a husband, two sisters, two brothers, you're so right. So right. Thank you for that. So yeah, my sis, let your humanity, your humanity have its place, okay? Avoid allowing the impulse of letting a stranger that reminds you of your lost loved one become an extension of your deceased loved one, and so when you do that, allowing your impulse of letting a stranger that reminds you of a lost loved one become an extension of your deceased person, what you are doing is going through denial again. And you're trying to fill that gap with somebody else so that you so you can avoid going through the pain. Don't allow that to happen, because then you're going to have to create an attachment to this stranger who becomes a gateway to your need to be attached to the unavailable person. Let me say it again. You are going to attach yourself to this stranger who has so much characteristics of this person that you have lost. And because this person reminds you of all the great fun times you had with this person, you are going to attach yourself to this person, okay, who will then give you an attachment because that person's here. You can see them, talk to them, laugh, touch them, and they, because of their ongoing presence, it gives you an ongoing connection with the person who's lost. And then that person becomes unavailable to you. And now you get angry at this person for not being available to you. Well, did the person tell you that they could be available? So we've got to be very careful how we do that. Okay, let's go. I have a dear friend, Ellen G. Thank you for this, Ellen G., whose husband died, and 7 years later, the medications were still in the room, in the bottle. How can I help my friend to heal and dispose of these medications? Ellen G., let me tell you this. It is going to be a chore, a battle that you might not want to get involved in, because those are not bottles. Those are now the embodiment of the person. And they're having separation from the person is so difficult, so that anything that this person used to ingest or put in themselves, it has become so personal. If it's inside, it's you. If it's put on the outside, it's you. So they're so close to you, that they're saying, listen, I need to do this, because when I touch this, when I smell, or even perfume, or all this smell good stuff that we use, those things, they don't want to get rid of those things because they are so personal. So we got to be very careful. We should never tell them, dispose of these things, because you might lose a dear friend. You might lose a friend who was looking for understanding and support from you, but they might feel that you are further alienating them from the person that they love so much. So we've got to be very, very careful how we walk our way through this. It's a fine line. I'm trying to tell you that sometimes you just got to support people. And listen, I'm not saying you support the habits. You support the person. Let the person know you are supporting them, but they have to decide on the habits of, because of the function and the meaning of the behavior that they're going through. Please do not attack the meaning of their behavior, the meaning and the function. Just be very supportive of the person. And if you pray, they will come out of the avoidance. All right, okay. Avoid the use of various forms of emotional anesthesia. Avoid, laying out clothes, place settings at the dinner table, or sitting in a car waiting for the person to come, because this way you can go and pick them up. Just try to avoid those things. Calling the person, okay, and leave a voice message. Calling the person's number, leaving a voice message when they don't answer. Yes, that one is not a fake. That one is for absolute real. Call. People are doing that. Call the number. The person didn't answer. You leave a message. And somebody told me they even got angry when the person did not return the call. I'm not going to tell this person, well, the person is deceased. No, I've got to ask them questions like, well, what does it really mean to you? I mean, just I'm saying, you must be really close to this person, well, how often do you call them? Okay, well, when you don't get them, do you always leave a message? Yeah. Okay, do they return calls sometimes? Yeah, they return it. How do you feel when they return the call? So we got to go down through all of those things, all these questions that you got to ask, but you got to know how to frame all of these questions. Got to know how to do that. So yeah, they'll call. No answer. What's wrong? And when they don't get an answer, they feel abandoned. They feel like something's wrong with them. Why this person left me? So now they are avoiding the reality that the person is no longer available, because to do that, enter into their pain, and their pain bank is full, so they can't take no more pain. Man, I tell you, this stuff is for real, as they say. Listen, avoidance. Get down through this. I don't want to keep you much longer. Okay, avoid the use of various text messaging. Yes, that's another one there too. Text message. You text them and they don't text back. Same like calling. Okay, text them, they don't text back. Avoid asking someone to call the person. If they don't call, if you call, they don't answer. Just say, I've been trying to get a hold of such and such for a long time, but they just don't. They're not returning my call, and I'm wondering if I did something wrong to them while they're not returning my call. I mean, maybe if you call them for me, they'll answer your call. So now you're in a trap. I don't know. Now you're not calling the deceased person. But what you're doing is facilitating a piece of themselves that has not yet come out of the degree of pain that they're feeling through it. So you help them through whatever it takes. And then maybe down the road, you can go into some reality phase of, well, however we might ask. I don't want to give you all this stuff. Let's go into some reality phase that will bring them to the point where they can come to the reality that this person is no. But you better be around when they decompensate. Because if you try to take them down that road, oh, don't do this, don't do that, you better be around when they just fall apart like ice cream on the sidewalk in July. You better be available, okay? Avoid getting angry with the deceased person when you don't get a response. And that happens so frequently. They get angry with the person. One person got so you may think I'm making these stories up, right? Somebody got so angry with the person who was deceased that they didn't answer, that they smashed and tore up a picture of them. All right, that's tore up. Okay, you don't want to answer me? I don't want to. You don't want to be with me? You don't want to talk to me? Rip. Tore the picture up. Anger, unavailability of a person that was such a deep part of you. When they are not available, it will make you do all kinds of things you never thought about doing. Tore the picture. One person took a scissors and cut away that person because they took a picture together. They cut that person off, destroyed the part of the person, but kept the other part of themselves. So I said to this person, well, do you remember the picture that was on the other side? I say, yeah, well, you can't forget that picture, right? They go, no, I know, but it just felt so good because they didn't respond. respond. Yeah. So avoid denying the significance. Okay, John Ruffin, what about beating yourself up for their death? John, absolutely. Sometimes you beat yourself up and hold yourself responsible for something, and that's when you go into a woulda, coulda, shoulda, wisha. What about beating yourself up? That is a key question, John. And yes, those things happen. People will do that all the time. So when you beat yourself up, okay, again, it's a matter of, listen, this reality piece, and reality is on one side of your brain and your emotions on the other side of the brain. So, you know, sometimes they're not good, sometimes they're not friends, because the reality is saying, hey, it happened. My emotions say, no, I don't want to hear about that. I don't want to hear about that. Yeah, but it happened. I don't want to hear about that. So you're having an argument with yourself, one side of the brain with another, having this argument. And so you're beating yourself up. And when you do that, you know, John, it kind of you know, because you're holding yourself responsible and you beat yourself up, it gives you a sense of redemption that you have now paid the cost of their death. You have now paid the penalty. Why? Because you are beating yourself up. And at some point, you know, you got to get to enough is enough of beating yourself up. So you got to get back over to the reality side and say, well, listen, this is what happened. But and person and my reality now is missing the person, but I can't get past that. Why? Because my attachment to them was so strong that when they are unavailable to me, my sense of self is fractured, just fractured. All right. Okay. It's a great question, John, but you know, those are kind of things that there is no easy answer to that. It's the kind of stuff that person in therapy would have to work that through. We have to work. You can't say, well, go down to Walmart and buy some antidepressant or something like that. You know, you can't do that. You got to work this thing, because you got to talk about meaning of the person, meaning to the self. How do you get attached? What was it like? What was it like before you attached to this person? Now you're getting this, that. And so there's just a myriad of questions that you begin to ask, you know, and work them through that. What does it feel like now that you're attacking yourself? Oh, just questions, reasons for that. All of these kinds of questions are very, very important. Okay. All right. So I think that's it. To, you know, avoid self-criticism, and please do not criticize. It kind of merges well with the last question that John asked there about beating yourself up, because that is that is something that we all do, and we do that out of guilt. There's a sense of guilt. You know, I didn't do this right, or I should have done more. And you know, and especially if somebody else joins the bandwagon in your head and say, well, you know, what did you do this, or did you do that? Did you take them to the appointment? And so now you're being interrogated, and so now you're beating yourself up. If the answer is no, I didn't do what I should have. Yes, I did what I shouldn't have done. Well, man, you know, it's hard. It's hard. You know, and sometimes you join with that person in their grief on top of your grief. You know, so now you're grieving for them because you let them down, and now you're grieving because the person is not available. How do you get out of that? So now you have something different that you got to work with. Oh, listen. Thank you, 6'5". Okay, I'll be back on my YouTube couch next week. Listen, get on that YouTube couch. But 6'5", you're on there every week. Can you just please come on here? Oh man, but yeah, listen, I'm so glad that you enjoy it and that you're here every week. And I know you share and, you know, follow, subscribe, and do all that kind of stuff. So I'm so great. I'm so great. Okay, so that's all I got for you this week, and we're gonna do some more of this follow up for next week. So tell some of your folks who are going through grief, listen, there's some stuff, and we have questions. I can always go back and get some of those questions and answer stuff out. So like, follow, share, and subscribe. I'm grateful, grateful, grateful. I look forward to it. Be safe. Be safe. Have yourself a wonderful and safe week. And we want you back on here for, if you want to be considered for future shows, please get on that phone or your tablet or whatever it is, your computer, and email me at drkitspeaks@gmail.com. My team will take care of you and give you the great entrance into this, and you can have your time here. Because if you don't say it, thank you, Desiree. Thank you. See you next week. Ellen G, very good. Tips help grieving process. Thank you. Thank you so much. Good job, John Ruffin. Hey, Big John. Good to see you, man. We'll talk. Good to see you. Good to see you. And Big John, you need to be back on here because you were on here one time, man. We got to get you back. We can continue this stuff. Okay. Thank you so much. And like, follow, share, subscribe, and we'll see you next week. God willing, and you able. God will be willing and able for you. So see you now next week. Looking forward to it. Have yourselves a good night. Bye-bye.